Imagine being almost 1,000 miles from the nearest ocean and deciding that this is where I want whales to live, and to be so passionate about that whales should live here 1,000 miles from the ocean that you convince other people to donate millions of dollars so that you can build a 230-acre complex for whales to live in the middle of Ohio. That's the story of SeaWorld of Aurora, Ohio, a place I visited as a child. I grew up near Fort Wayne, Indiana. And every year at summertime, we would take a summer vacation to an amusement park for one day. We would either go to Kings Island, I have Hanna-Barbera Land, Fred Flintstone and all that shit. But it was great as a little kid, like 6 years old and 7 years old. Or if you were older, you could go to Cedar Point. Which was the roller coaster capital of the world. But you had to like roller coasters, which means you had to be certain height and so old and so many pounds. And we'd pick one or the other to go to every year. Well, this year, since I was in between stage, we decided, well, let's go somewhere different. So we went to Aurora, Ohio. Well, to get there from Fort Wayne, we ended up taking the toll road, which was, Ohio had a toll road in the 80s. It was insanely expensive, and one of the worst roads I ever rode on in my life. It was just potholes. It made the roads of Philippines look like nice roads. Let's just put it that way. So finally we get there, because mind you, these trips, whenever we would leave, we'd always just load up the car, leave out a really big bag of dog food for the dogs, and take off for the day. But mind you, taking off at the day meant we left the house at like 4 a.m. So we would get there at like 7 or 8 a.m. when the gates opened. And then we'd spend all day there, and then we would drive back, and we'd get back at like 2 a.m. So basically we're gone literally for almost 24 hours on this trip. And we do this once a year every year. Well, we get up in the car, 4 a.m., we're driving, we take this fucking toll road, it's just bumpy and potholes constantly, so I didn't even get to sleep in the car. That's normally was what I did. And we get there to SeaWorld, which I guess was actually the second made SeaWorld behind San Diego. I would have thought that you would keep them near the fucking ocean. Who in their right mind walks into Ohio and goes, I wish I could see a whale today? Well, I mean, we did it, but as you can tell from these stories, my parents were fucking crazy. So, like, okay, who else does this? Well, evidently not that many people, because it did close, and it closed before the whole blackfish scandal came out. We go there, and they got the sign, and walk through the gate, and it's like every other amusement park. But this one's in Ohio. So it's way less busy than like the Orlando one, which was just ass-packed full of people. Which did give you some advantages. Like there's a couple of the nice things. I wasn't able to get a picture of this. I wish I would have. They had a giant stone globe. And by giant, I mean it was like 6 feet across. And it sat in a cradle. Stone cradle, and a little bit of water, so it was pumped underneath, so you could spin this giant fucking rock with just one hand. It weighed thousands and thousands of pounds, and you could move it just by gliding. It was really neat, and it had Globe of the Earth on it. So someday, if I ever win the lottery and get rich, I'm going to have one of those in my yard. That's why I always decided, and I still haven't won the lottery yet. So they had that, and that was right next to the little touching pool where you could touch sea urchins and debarbed stingrays that swam around. They're in a little pool of water about 18 inches deep, and you can reach your hand in there and feed them, and touch them and feed them. I think they had little cups of like shrimp or squid that you could feed them. But the neat one was the dolphin pool. There's a picture of me there feeding the dolphins. You could feed the dolphins and touch the dolphins. You literally went right up next to the edge of the pool, and you could put your hand in the top of the water, and the dolphins would come up and touch the bottom of your hand. Or if you had a fish, then they all fucking came towards you. Basically the dolphins told people that if you don't have a fish, we might swim by you once. But other than that, put out a fish if you want to see the dolphins. And people put out, you sell you a little cup of fish for like $5 or something, you put one out, and boom, they're all swimming right by you, coming back and forth. They all want to be your friend as long as you got fish. Kind of like when I'm cooking food in the kitchen and the cat is constantly rubbing on my feet. Yeah, dolphins are cats of the water, I guess. That was really neat because later on, years later, when I was in boot camp in Orlando, Florida, for our unsecured liberty, we went to a SeaWorld. Yeah, we didn't get to go to Universal Studios or anyplace else. We went to fucking SeaWorld, But at least they served alcohol there. So, I got to walk around getting fucking blitzed. There, though, at the Orlando one, you couldn't get within 20 feet of the dolphin tank. I was going to say cage, but, it's a tank. They literally had fenced off like 20 feet away, and there's quiet signs going, shh, keep quiet. Dolphins can hear your noise. And I'm like, just a few years ago, I was putting my hand in the water, slapping them. Now you're telling me that we have to be quiet even near the tank around them? It's not like they were pregnant or in quiet time, happy time or nothing. That's just their policy, not to distress the animals. And I'm like, you're worried about that, but you got Shamu with his fucking limp fin. Okay. Yeah, why don't you give your big whale some Viagra before you worry about being quiet? That was kind of stupid. I did like in Ohio, you got to touch them. The Ohio one then had that. Those were the two good parts. The rest of the SeaWorld of Ohio was a complete joke like you couldn't imagine. I mean, think of the logistics. They didn't just take water out of Lake Erie and add salt to it for the lagoon that they kept their whale in. Shamu or whatever they call it. I think all of them were named Shamu. It's kind of like how the Simpsons name all their cats Snowball too. So I got to see a Shamu that was there. And this big tank that it's in, it's salt water. Well, they don't just take the water from the lake and Lake Superior or Lake Erie and add salt to it. No. They truck in truckloads of water from the ocean, 800 miles away, 1,000 miles away, and truck it in and bring it there and dump it and do it again and fill up this lagoon lake. And then they have to replenish it as it evaporates away. And then they have to do partial water changes. If you have a fish tank, you know all about this. And keeping salt water is way more difficult than keeping fresh water, much less keeping a fucking lagoon full of salt water. Crazy expense. I mean, that's why I say whoever thought, let's build this in the middle of Ohio was a fucking moron. I mean, that is just the stupidest idea and the stupidest thing. No, I mean, we only went there once for a reason. Here's some of the other things that we got to see there. They had a walrus and sea otter show where the sea otters come up to the stagecoach and the guy wears a cowboy hat and shoots off some cap guns, and the walrus comes up and is also the deputy or the sheriff also, and they make some storyline out of them all hopping around on the stage. Dumb. Watching the whales and dolphins jump through the air, that was kind of neat. I caught one with a water cannon going over the dolphin, made the dolphin look like it was peeing a lot once. That was kind of neat. The person rides the dolphin up rides Shamu up on the nose all the way to the top. That was okay to see. I mean, that's a classic pose that they showed on all of them until I think one of them, the blackfish, grabbed it and started slamming the person around. I would have loved to have seen that day. That would have been... But no, it went off without a hitch. The whale didn't eat no one. Which it could have. I mean, if you know anything about orcas, they are assholes. They are the assholes of the ocean. They're like worse than hyenas and mosquitoes. I can live without orcas in the ocean forever. That would be just fine. Then they had the most confusing event that I can't imagine who came up with this idea. And purely, I guess, as a cash grab, but it's included in the ticket price. So we didn't have to pay extra, so I don't get how it would be a cash grab. But it was the musical Cats on water. Yeah. I mean, sure, Cats was popular in like the 80s and stuff, and the musical in New York, but here they had it on water skis. Boats driving around with people dressed as full fucking cats on water, and they're doing their stunts, and all of them go up over the jump, and I guess maybe they were singing or doing something special. I don't really know, but they're going through all that. And then someone points out, why? Cats don't like water. They sure as fuck wouldn't be learning to water ski. That's the most stupid thing ever. And yeah, it's right up there with stupid, especially because it's SeaWorld. Why didn't they just have people in whale costumes doing it? That'd make just about as much sense as cats water skiing. At least whales would be like, oh, look, those whales are going really fucking fast now. But I guess the death nail of it probably was the movie Blackfish. If you've ever seen that or any of the other, or know about it, it's just a documentary showing what SeaWorld did to their whales and how inhumane it was or is to keep a giant fucking whale in a tank that's slightly bigger than it. Well, how big of a tank do they need? They need a fucking ocean. Whales need an ocean to be happy. They're not going to be happy in anyone's tank in their backyard or in the middle of Ohio. So that was it, basically. It was the movie killed them. And plus tourism and it's declining, and why go and see a whale when I can pop open the internet and learn all about whales from David Attenborough, and he describes them real nice, and you can watch more about whales than you'll ever see in SeaWorld looking at one. So with that, puff puff pass, no parking on the grass, I'm out of here. And we get there to SeaWorld. Dumb. Blackfish grabbed it and started slamming the person around. That was kind of neat.